Hello everyone, welcome to Strategy and Stories, where we look at strategic communications for local business. I'm your host, Daniel Rich, and today we will be examining how brand and business growth are inseparable. I think it's important to recognize that brand can often be a very vague term, right? Most people would likely say brand is a logo, mission statement, or some sort of goal that a business or organization might have. But today, we're going to go much deeper into that and really attempt to define what brand is and how it supports business success. Our first segment today will be exploring what exactly brand is. So I want to start in saying that no, brand is not just a logo. And I would actually like to provide you a quote that will help us better discuss what brand is in this podcast. In his Harvard Business Review article, Dan Pallotta, author and president of Advertising for Humanity, puts it succinctly: brand is everything and everything is brand. Pallotta's article provides a great foundational understanding for what brand is and what contributes to it. So I will be using his article as a framework for this discussion. First, Pallotta articulates that brand is your strategy, which I think is a great point. With the predominance of multi-channel communication that places just as much emphasis, and maybe even more, on digital media platforms, brands have to work hard to make sure who they are and what they offer is communicated with consistency across a range of channels. On this point, Pallotta points out, and I'll quote, "Strategic alignment means that all elements of a business are arranged in such a way as to best support the fulfillment of its long-term purpose," end quote. And I think that's a really excellent point, and one that we need to look more closely at. He additionally goes on to say that purpose is what the business is trying to achieve, and strategy is how the business will achieve it. What makes strategy and overall alignment regarding strategy and brand so important is that it determines the way in which a business and its brand directly interact with consumers and how it defines that relationship. Let's use Chick-fil-A as an example. While Chick-fil-A may be a national chain, the way its employees welcome you with a smile and say "it's my pleasure," the way it closes on Sunday to adhere to its values, its double drive-through lines to make getting your order quick and convenient, and its customer stories all contribute to a strategy that places emphasis on making the consumer feel valued. And this is a great segue into the next topic that contributes to brand. Brand is customer service. I would actually like to speak on a local business close to me and kind of how they really capitalize on customer service. Mad Hatter Cupcakes here in Jacksonville, Alabama, who I've been fortunate to work with on some projects, really emphasizes customer service and in making that personal connection. One of their customers has a gluten allergy, so full time now they have a gluten-free section of cupcakes and other confectionaries. And it goes beyond this. It's the way they always make a point to talk to their customers and build that personal connection. This is what really sets them apart and makes them a business with a strong brand. Personally, when I think of Mad Hatter, while I do think of their delicious offerings, I also think of kind and sweet interactions that reflect their sweet offerings. Additionally, for businesses of any size, it's not just in-person customer service either. As we're seeing the rise of digital media and related platforms, brands providing people ways to get support online are taking advantage of a really great step, whether it's through their website, through some sort of community forum, or through social media such as Facebook or Twitter, X. Especially for local businesses, those who are able to inform and communicate with their customers have an upper hand. And of course, the great thing about fantastic customer service is that it generates earned media. And this is a big one in helping to drive growth. As we increasingly lend our attention to forums and platforms, people sharing their positive experiences work to simultaneously build brand and drive success. A powerful and warming example of this is Trader Joe's, which, while it is a regional chain, demonstrates how personal connection and customer care can elevate and build brand. Here's the story. When a 92-year-old World War II veteran was snowed in his home and low on food, his daughter called around her local supermarkets, seeing if any of them could make a delivery despite the bad weather. None of them could, except for Trader Joe's. Not only were they willing to take the order, they made recommendations for the man's low-sodium diet and made the delivery in the snow. The result of this? A post with 3.1 thousand upvotes on Reddit. Earned media. While it may be somewhat tricky to measure the success of fantastic customer service, measuring customer satisfaction and having discussion with consumers not only in person, but through online platforms, whether that be a website, social media, or some sort of forum, speak to the importance of customer service and establishing brand that contributes to business success. Qualtrics provides a really great breakdown of this and some hard evidence that backs the importance of customer service in creating brand. According to HubSpot, 68% of consumers are willing to pay more for products and services from brands associated with excellent customer service. Deloitte found how return on investment is higher for brands who are customer-centric compared to those who take a more distance approach. And XM Institute found that customers who rate a brand service as good are 38% more likely to recommend that company to others. So, what makes good customer service? Well, it's personable. It makes connection with consumers through demonstrating a desire to help them and meet their needs. And it uses social listening. Getting consumer feedback is important, and there's a myriad of ways to do this. Maybe it's directly speaking with customers and learning what they would like to see. Maybe it's a recommendation box at the front counter. And maybe it's social media listening. Another important point that contributes to brand is brand voice. It's the way your brand's voice and tone is consistent to you and differentiated from others who may be direct competitors in your area or who are of the same sector. It's critical in the current landscape, both traditionally and digitally, as everything is getting more crowded and brands need to differentiate themselves. Sprout Social published an article titled Brand Voice, What It Is and Why It Matters by Jemiah Keenan, and I think surely hits the nail on the head in explaining brand voice. According to Keenan, brand voice is the distinct personality a business curates to communicate with its target audience across mediums. It includes a unified approach to tone, style, and messaging to build brand recognition and nurture connection with the audience. Critical to brand voice, you must identify your audience and create personas to better understand audience segments. You need to understand who you're talking to and how your business can help them. And for a local business, it may prove more difficult to segment audiences and change tone for certain segments compared to a large corporation. Identifying audience and creating personas must start with an understanding of a specific audience's goals and desires. While your messaging must be consistent in sharing who you are and what you offer, it needs to be catered to a specific segment you are trying to reach, and what the people in that segment seek to get out of the products or services you provide. It's important to meet the consumer where they are and craft messaging that will earn their interest. It's important to additionally understand consumers' buying triggers and pain points. What are things that would not be helpful to them? What might cause them to struggle in buying and using your product or service? Which, again, will be different based on audience segments. Other things to look at are lifestyle and hobbies and the types of content they prefer. All these things will help you understand your audience and how to target them. Another important point in establishing and maintaining brand voice is performing audits. Examine all your communication channels and how your target audience on different channels are reacting and engaging with your business. Find inconsistencies, or find what resonates. Does the use of emojis on Instagram tend to earn higher engagement metrics? Is the use of a certain hashtag not helping you? Is the way you structure a sentence of an often used message helping or hurting you? Performing an audit and understanding all these things will enable you to better move forward in defining and implementing your brand voice. For instance, if you're a local apparel retailer who provides cool and comfortable apparel for people of all ages, you would probably want to change your tone and aspects of messaging for a post on Instagram, where your local younger audience is likely to be, as compared to a 30-second spot for cable television. Tailoring your tone to different channels and the audience segments that are there can really help properly target who is there. The next important point to think about in establishing brand voice is the creation and implementation of a style guide, which I argue should be the first point on this list breakdown, but nevertheless, it's important. After you performed an audit A style guide should be created and implemented to ensure that the brand's voice is kept consistent. While this may be something that people often think of as distant and separate from anything a local business could do, I posit that it's not. Style guides establish consistency and communications with customers, which is critical. It could be what's featured on a menu for a local restaurant, and it can encompass a variety of things, but maintaining consistency is important. And then, in further establishing and working on brand voice, monitor, review, and adapt, which is something that I don't think a lot of businesses do enough of, especially with the predominance of the digital landscape, which is slowly evolving to include local businesses. It's increasingly important to continually monitor how your voice and tones are aligning with your purpose and strategy, and how consumers are engaging with that. So, what is the next point that contributes to brand? Well, interestingly, I think it's one that a lot of people would actually think of. Brand is your people. Just how individuals have a brand, or something that comes to mind when someone sees or interacts with them, the people that make up an organization contribute to brand as well. For instance, if you were to have a negative interaction with a salesman at a local car dealership, you probably wouldn't have a very positive view of that dealership as a whole, and be less likely to return there to actually try and make a purchase. I would like to call back to Steve Jobs because I think he's a really great example of how people work to create a business's brand. I mean, who could ever forget the revealing of the first ever iPhone, where he teased that the new product Apple was coming out with was an iPod, computer, and cellular device in one, and then the audience caught on. Dedicated to pushing boundaries and putting out the most cutting-edge and innovating technology Apple possibly could, Jobs was an intrinsic part of Apple's brand. This also ties back into how customer service ties into brand. While the messaging, voice, and tone can be spot on, if the people who embody your business's brand don't contribute to building this and create a negative experience for consumers, then there's an issue. People as brand is especially a powerful tool for local businesses, where people can really become the face of a business and where customer interactions are more important than on a larger scale. Another personal example of this, me and my friends have this local Mexican cuisine restaurant that we would occasionally go to a few years ago. I remember one night though, we were seated and our waiter really strived to build a relationship with us. Every time we go there now, he always checks in on us and asks how we're doing, even if he's not waiting our table. It's the little things and interactions like this that show how people matter and how they can really enhance a business's brand. The next thing that contributes to brand is facilities. Environment is critical. It sets a tone and an expectation for what people should expect to encounter. In my hometown, there's this wild game restaurant, and before you even look at the menu, the taxidermied wild game animals on the wall already let you know what to expect. This restaurant, with its interesting inside visuals as expected, is successful because they realize that their brand is the building and inside environment as much as it is what they do externally. A store or location, in a sense, is like a home. And interestingly, I think local businesses can also work to create that. A store or location, in a sense, is like a home. And interestingly, I also think that a business's website and social media platforms, in a sense, can contribute to that feeling of home and work to create an environment that is welcoming and that seeks to achieve their goals. Think, how does web design, its flow, its branding align with a business and create a home that communicates who you are and that develops good interactions? Does it make the consumer's experience easier or more difficult? Does it entice them? Does it make things accessible and seamless? As the digital landscape continues to expand and really begins playing a role in what local businesses do, websites and hubs where consumers may more so interact with a business have become places to communicate brand and that can contribute to building positive experiences. So, what you've all been waiting for, brand is also your logo and communication tools, which is what most people think of. The logo on an Instagram profile, the brand colors that we all come to associate with an entity, the font, yes, the visuals that people associate a business with is brand too. It's just not the only thing that defines it. Lastly, while this was not included in the brand framework David Pallotta included in his Harvard Business Review article, I would like to posit that brand is how you build relationships. Building and maintaining relationships deserves its own spot because, quite frankly, continuing to use what we've discussed to build upon consumer interactions are so important. Whether it's auditing and updating brand voice to better align and the audience segments who are there, continuing to create positive in-person interactions, or even making changes to overall strategy to stay competitive, relationships are a key driving factor in brand. So we've talked about what brand is and what contributes to a solid establishment of brand for a business. In this next segment, let's actually look at how brand drives business growth and success. I think an article published by Brand Extract by Jonathan Fisher really provides a great foundational understanding of this topic. Buyers will purchase the products and services of a business with a strong brand. Here, Fisher makes a great point, saying that oftentimes where businesses go wrong is they try to market their products or services by focusing on the functions and features. However, what a business communicates its offering to a consumer should involve messaging that resonates with the consumer's interest. Once again, here we see the importance of research and audience segmentation. By doing this, says Fisher, you are able to help consumers understand that you truly have a better product or service. A critical part of understanding how effective your brand is in creating profitability compared to competitors is being able to measure effectiveness. Another article by Brand Extract, which is by both Weir and Rainwater, cite the importance of businesses having a strategy that connects their branding with return on investment. While ROI may be a really big term that is not often thought of when thinking about local business, if you create paid advertisements, buy ad space, and spend dollars on trying to better inform your audiences of what your brand is and what you can offer them, then you should be able to measure it. The takeaway: businesses need to measure the effectiveness of their communications to understand how powerful their brand is. While it's great to measure financial success and your return on investment, that does not tell the whole story. Financial metrics do not say it all. In Which Customer Metrics Best Predict Financial Performance?, a podcast published by Brand Extract by Both and Mittal, the two discuss the importance of a very important metric: customer satisfaction. On this idea, Mittal makes a fantastic point that customer satisfaction is a critical metric as it measures how much a business has delivered regarding what it promises to consumers. I would like to quote Mittal here because he directly ties this into brand when he says, and I'll quote, "When we think about branding and the gestalt of a brand, it's really the promise that we make to a customer, and customer satisfaction measures the extent to which that brand's promise gets fulfilled. That's why I believe it works so well," end quote. Further, Mittal points out how customer satisfaction measurement helps provide insight on what the business can do better in terms of meeting consumer demands. On this note, I posit that especially getting primary qualitative research is important. Communicating openly with your customers and seeking honest feedback will enable you to learn exactly what they are seeking and can really be a big booster in creating brand. Both of the podcast then really makes a really strong point that it's important to acknowledge regarding customer satisfaction, which is that when customers are satisfied, this leads to referrals, a willingness to pay a higher price, and a consumer understanding that you are a premium. Once again, we see the benefits of earned media. The great thing about measuring customer satisfaction is that this is probably one of the easier metrics to measure for local businesses. While paying for premium services that can help measure different metrics may be more realistic for larger businesses and corporations, let's be real. The average business owner doesn't have the time or possibly even the dollars to do this. However, simple strategies such as customer interaction, having a recommendations box at the counter, social listening on social media platforms, these are all ways to measure customer satisfaction that are relatively free. We have reviewed what brand is and what contributes to it, as well as how the success of brand can be measured. Thank you for listening today. Make sure to join us next time to learn more about strategic communication for local businesses.